Then straight into the next session, influencing retail. We're going to be looking at digital talent's impact on driving sales with Ian Shepherd from The Social Store. And this is going to be a really exciting session. Like I said, Ian is an absolutely fantastic. He's a manager. I think he manages the brand for Tiana, and he does some really fantastic stuff in this space. So let's welcome Ian to the Social Day stage, virtually.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you for the lovely introduction there. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. So my name is Ian Shepherd, and I'm the founder and CEO of The Social Store. Now, today, I'm going to be talking about influencing retail, so digital talent's impact on driving sales. And hopefully this will be a great continuation from everything that Jennifer has just spoken about now. So I'm going to go straight into a big stat. And that is Charli D'Amelio. She is the #1 star on TikTok right now, and she has 84 million followers. Now, the reason why I think this is so interesting is because just how quickly it's growing. If I'd been standing on stage last year presenting to you about influencing retail, we wouldn't have been talking about Charli because she was a nobody back then. But this industry is moving super quickly, and it's really exciting to be part of it on the journey. So today I want to present to you 3 key things. The first is the future of retail, and I believe the pivotal role that influencers are going to play. The second thing is going to be my experience building The Social Store, which is the UK's biggest influencer product business. And I'm going to be going through some case studies, which I hope you'll take a lot from. And then finally, I'm going to share my recommendations for 5 things that you should be focusing on right now. So we're going to be looking at the future, go back to the past, and right now. So in terms of my background, I spent the first 15 years of my career working for some of the greatest entertainment brands with Disney and Universal Music. I also was lucky to work with the likes of Beyonce and Lady Gaga. But it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I saw my now 10-year-old daughter and her content consumption change, and she was absolutely obsessed with YouTube. And I saw this opportunity to take everything I'd learned and transport it over to The Social Store. So in terms of what we do, we work with some of the world's biggest influencers, including PewDiePie, the world's most followed YouTuber with 105 million followers. We've built the UK's most successful influencer brand, Hearts by Tiana, and I'll take you through that. And we've launched some great social products. So in terms of the first section of my presentation, the future of retail and the role of influencers. Now, in the past, a lot of my presentations, particularly to retailers, have been explaining influencers. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to assume that everyone knows exactly what an influencer is. So looking at the future, and in fact, looking at China right now, I want to talk to you about live streaming because it is huge in China. Now, specifically Taobao, which is Alibaba's live streaming platform. And if I was to sum it up, I would say it's basically a combination of Twitch and QVC. So it's live streaming shopping. And why do I think it's so important? Well, right here, there are now 100,000 brands selling today on Taobao in China. And they forecast that they're going to serve 500 million customers this year. So it's huge there already. But to tell you just a little bit about what it looks like, I'm going to play this stream in the background and talk about it. So here you'll see a young Chinese influencer, and she's talking about the product on screen. She's sharing her personal thoughts on the product. But she's also answering live questions, such as what does it feel like? What's the fit like? And also she's working with some really sophisticated tools which drive a sense of FOMO, just under 5 minutes left, counting down till consumers can either buy it or the opportunity runs out. And there's so many different influencers and creators on Taobao today, whether it's selling cars or selling cookery utensils. And one of the most fascinating things is, in fact, farmers. So there are hundreds of thousands of farmers in China that are selling their produce on Taobao. And in fact, sales of vegetables and fruit have grown more than 1,000% in the last few months. So it's fascinating to see what they're doing in China. Now, what you may know is that Amazon also have a similar platform which launched early 2019, and it's called Amazon Live. Now, I'm going to play this background video as well. And what you see here is, to me, what feels more like a QVC style presenter. So an older demographic, and much more of a one-way conversation. Whereas the thing that's really strong with Taobao is how there's the two-way dialogue. Also, the tools on this, it's run through my web browser, but aren't so sophisticated in terms of the ability to purchase different products. And you'll see that the presented products are actually below the fold of the page. Now, one final thing which shows the direction that we're heading is Facebook. And last month they announced the additional features to their e-commerce elements. And the one thing that they can now do, and they're rolling out really quickly, and this is for big businesses and small businesses, is the opportunity to purchase in-app. So that's an absolute game changer. It's not just about promoting products, it's the ability for brands and influencers to sell in the app. So on the right-hand side here, you can see that the influencer has gone live and you have the ability to buy her red hat in the stream. So when consumers have their credit card details automatically stored within the apps, the payment journey, so there's very little friction, and so the sales conversion will be so much higher. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how this ecosystem plays out. First of all, you've got the content platforms, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or even things like Fortnite. How will they embrace the commerce element, and how will they cultivate the opportunities for consumers to purchase within their platforms? But on the other side, you have the commerce platforms like Amazon, already huge in terms of sales, but not somewhere you would typically go for branded content. But we know that Amazon is very aggressive in that space, recently acquiring Twitch, Prime Video, so all sorts to play out there. But there's also bespoke platforms such as Network, Verishop, and Popshop, which have been created as a really great way of combining the two elements together from the bottom up. And Network, for example, is backed by a number of celebrity influencers such as Drake, DJ Khaled, and they've sold limited edition merch on their platform to really drive awareness. But then we're also going to have the brands. The brands are going to want to play in this space too. And P&G, for example, have developed their own live streaming shop on Taobao in China just because it's really important. But ultimately, the influencer is going to be at the heart, because consumers are going to want to understand and trust what the influencer recommends. And as the influencer moves across different platforms and with different products, the influencer will be the one who rules. So that was a little bit of a look into the future. Now what I want to do is give you some of my experience building an influencer brand and working with influencers in the UK. So my first project I'm going to talk about is Hearts by Tiana, with Tiana Wilson. Now Tiana is a 12-year-old girl from Nottingham, and she's got 16.5 million subscribers on YouTube. And she is the most subscribed girl, most followed girl in the world for the kind of tween age girl. Now, Tiana first started on YouTube about 4 years ago when she had chickenpox, and she asked her dad whether she could record some videos. And her career has really grown since then. Now, here's some of the stats that we were showing retailers last year, and we were really comparing, firstly, Tiana versus other influencers in the space, but also, and it's not shown on this chart, when we looked at Tiana's engagement versus traditional kids TV, it was so obvious that kids were consuming so much more of Tiana's content than they were Nickelodeon or the Disney Channel. So to give you a little bit more into who exactly Tiana is and what her content is, she started unboxing toys, but now she focuses on pranks and challenges and things that 12-year-old girls love having fun doing. She's got 2 channels, and she typically does 3 to 4 videos a week. But 3 to 4 videos a week means that kids are constantly engaging with her. So unlike maybe a film franchise, where there's a big spike when the film comes out with awareness, and then it quickly falls away, influencers have this constant dialogue with the fans. So what I wanted to do was to take everything that I'd learned at Disney, the most powerful brand company, and apply that to the influencer world. So knowing that Tiana had such a strong following and engagement from her audience, we created Hearts by Tiana, which is a brand for girls aged 6 to 12. On the right-hand side, you see Tiana modeling the first drop of clothing, and on the left-hand side, you have lots of her fans wearing the product. And for me, what was really pivotal is that we weren't just slapping a brand on products, but we were actually creating something that really embraced Tiana's life on the platform. So we launched the brand in Asda in May last year, and credit to Asda because they backed us with this new brand and they launched it across all of their clothing stores. And it launched with a huge bang. It was fantastic to see. We had thousands and thousands of kids from around the country running into their local Asda on the day of launch to buy the whole range of merchandise for Tiana. And that was such an exciting experience to see because everything that we believed would happen played out. And I will explain just how we did it in a minute. But when we compare this franchise to a typical Disney franchise, and I used to work there, they have some amazing brands, Star Wars and Marvel. The products sell, but there aren't queues of people waiting to go to Asda to buy the latest pair of Star Wars pajamas. But with Tiana, she has this really strong, engaged fan base that want to be part of it. So I've got a few more photos here that we mocked up for the launch, and Hearts by Tiana is now available in more than 2,000 stores around the UK and is rolling out in the US as well. And I spoke about really the way we've built this brand from the bottom up. I've got 4 pictures here from 4 different style guides that we created, and these guides enabled our partners to create products, and we created daywear, nightwear, accessories, bags, shoes, everything that girls of Tiana's age would like to have as part of their life. But we also thought very much about content and how we could integrate Hearts by Tiana into Tiana's content. And it wasn't about a hard sell. She was never saying, you have to buy this. It was very much around carefully integrating. So in the top left, we have a video where she's doing a 24-hour overnight challenge in her dad's car, and she's taking things out of her Tiana backpack. In the bottom, we have a number of different videos that were filmed in Asda, but actually it isn't the fact that Asda is prominent. It is the nature of the storyline of the video. And the most notable piece of content we created was this piece here, which I will talk over. But it was a very special piece of content that we filmed in partnership with Asda. And if you have children, you'll probably know that 24-hour videos and 24-hour challenge videos on YouTube are a huge phenomenon. And in this video, the premise of the video is that Tiana's dad has said, you've got to go to sleep, you've got to go to school tomorrow, and that was in her bedroom. Now she wakes up and she's in another bedroom, and the fans don't really know what's going on at the moment. But Tiana will wake up, and in a second you will see that in fact Tiana's new bedroom with the Hearts by Tiana product is in fact in Asda. And then the rest of the video plays out that Tiana lives every kid's dream in a shop when it's closed, and she goes around the shop. So in terms of how we launched Hearts by Tiana, it wasn't just in Asda. In fact, we had a big event in Birmingham in 2018. And I'm going to talk over another video now, but this is a meet and greet that we had for Tiana in September 2018. The first time that fans could ever get to see the Hearts by Tiana brand. It was for one weekend at the Bullring in Birmingham. And over the space of 2 days, 10,000 people turned up to meet Tiana and to buy products. And you can see the line here was 300, 400, 500 meters long, right at the very start of the day. And for me, it was fantastic just to see this huge fandom around Tiana. And in fact, when One Direction appeared in Birmingham, fewer people turned up than we saw for Tiana. So this video is on Tiana's channel, and it kind of plays to the fans that were there. And one thing we did was that we looked at the data and we said, where are Tiana's fan base and where would be the right place to have this event? And it was Birmingham for this first one. So this launched the Hearts by Tiana brand, but then we repeated with another pop-up, and this one was in November last year in Bradford. And in fact, for this one, 20,000 people turned up over 2 days to meet with Tiana. And again, absolutely fantastic just to see the huge support for Tiana and her family. But I want to show you another product now. And in fact, this one is built around a trend that we saw on YouTube. And we work very closely with a business called Kids Insights. They've got some really great data on how kids are consuming. And they shared the data that showed that there was a big growth in challenge videos on YouTube. And this is where kids challenge each other to different games. And in particular, there was a big trend for giant board game. And essentially in these videos, the kids lay out a game board in their house or in their garden, and they complete questions and challenges to see who wins. So at the start of COVID, we thought, what a great opportunity to create a whole product around this. And so we launched a game called Giant Board Game. And within the space of 2 months, this was Amazon's best-selling game for kids' outdoor games, and was just another great example of how powerful social trends are. But for me, another great example of how quickly we can work with influencers to turn something around. And then the one final case study I just wanted to share was my first one, in fact, and that was bringing together Jacksepticeye, who is one of the biggest gamers in the world, an Irish gamer, with Marvel. And Jack's a massive fan of Marvel, and we created this collaboration between the two where fans could get bespoke and unique products only in a collector's box, and this sold out in the space of hours. So just to kind of summarize why influencer programs are so powerful. Firstly, you have this dedicated promotion. So influencers can talk about and feature retailers in their content in an authentic and engaging way. They're also always relevant. So whether it's Christmas, it's Easter, or it's Halloween, influencers are creating content that's relevant to their audience. There is so much scope to create unique products, and often influencers have really unique insights from their fans and the feedback that they get. And ultimately it comes full circle, because when we launch new products, we can understand immediately fans' reception to those and iterate. So that was what we've learned from the past. Now here are my recommendations for the 5 most important things right now. And the first thing is that all of these are built around one key trend, and that is that there has been this monumental step change in e-commerce caused by COVID. Now, there is absolutely no doubt that in the future, this is not going to fall back down. We're at a new level, and e-commerce is so pivotal to everything in retail right now. And so my first recommendation, and it seems super obvious, but there's so many brands out there that don't do this at the moment, is to build and manage a consumer-facing e-commerce store. And I've got 2 examples here, FMCG companies. So the first is Beyond Meat, and the second is Heinz. And in the space of a month or so, both of these big global brands created direct-to-consumer e-commerce sites because they understood that importance. And that's in terms of having a really strong brand awareness. It's around creating and understanding and capturing data on the consumer. And ultimately as well, when you're working with influencers, it's really important to have somewhere that you control, that you can point them to. The second thing is my second recommendation is to make use of all of Facebook and Instagram's new e-commerce features. So I spoke about the shop, which they're rapidly rolling out. But these tools are super simple to use. They plug into Shopify, they plug into WooCommerce, and they're also designed for mobile. So you can make sales so quickly by leveraging these. And in fact, one of the stats that we saw from Tiana's website, more than 80% of the traffic to Tiana's website is on a mobile device, which just shows how important they are. Now, the third recommendation is to sell your products on Amazon. And again, it seems super simple, but Amazon is an absolute juggernaut, and it's only got bigger with COVID. Now, we've been selling on Amazon for a number of years now, and one of the fascinating statistics is that it's cheaper for me to sell some of our products on Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon, next day on Prime with their shipping and their fees, than it is for me to use Shopify and Royal Mail, because Amazon is just so efficient. It's a economy and a marketplace in itself. But what's most important is that when someone goes onto Amazon, they've got their wallet out and they're willing to spend money right here, right now. So you're not having to market them, to raise their awareness of a product, to put them in the funnel to try to convert them. They are there ready to buy. And some of the results we've seen on Amazon are staggering. What I will say is that it can be a bit of a double-edged sword and an incredibly frustrating platform as well. But I really recommend to see it through because the rewards are there. So my fourth recommendation is to build your brand's TikTok account. So I'm sure TikTok will be spoken about throughout the 3 days, and that's because it has become phenomenally successful, as all social platforms have throughout COVID. This particular example was an ASOS campaign, which I think is the biggest brand campaign launched to date. It came out last week. Various different components to it. One is a trended content called A Source, and in it, fans are tasked with sharing their 3 favorite outfits in 15 seconds. So that launched yesterday, and time will tell over the next weeks and months how that will perform. But one of the other things I wanted to share about TikTok is that only yesterday, one of the biggest merch companies in the US called Teespring, who make lots of different t-shirts, they announced a unique TikTok integration whereby creators could sell merch directly via the app. And I think we're going to see lots more sales opportunities via TikTok soon. And then finally, collaborate with influencers. So on the left-hand side here, we have Saffron Barker. This is her long-term partnership within The Style, which is a really great execution. And what we're going to see moving forward is more and more influencers and brands developing long-term partnerships, because the consumer is going to get sick of seeing the same fitness influencer promote 5 different protein shakes. They want to see real, authentic partnerships. But when you're working with influencers, also think about not just the audience that you're reaching with them, but the content that they're creating. Because throughout COVID, influencers and digital talent have been constantly creating content, whereas film studios and TV sets have been on lockdown. So there's this constant content created there. Then with more and more money going into influencer marketing, we're going to see more data for the ability to drive sales. And lastly, I would just say, think about micro influencers for real engagement in a particular niche, but then macro creators for really creating and amplifying a campaign for awareness. So there we have it, 5 things, and they are the 5 things that are going to create the most immediate impact on your business right now in terms of retail and e-commerce. So that's build the D2C site, make use of Facebook's features, sell on Amazon regardless of what your brand is. You can buy anything on there. One of my friends bought a cement mixer during lockdown. Build your brands on TikTok and collaborate with influencers. So I said we were going to look at the future. Hopefully you are as excited as I am. Hopefully you learned something from what we've done, particularly with Tiana, and you saw my recommendations there. As the social store, we are really lucky to be in this unique place across retail and influencers and social. We create strategies for brands. We work with the biggest talent in the world. We create products, and we've got a proven sales record. I'm also the chairman for the Business of Influencers, which is a network connecting people within influencer marketing. And we are an Amazon Launchpad company. So we can really help you with your retail, e-commerce, and social strategy. If you want to schedule a 30-minute session to see how we can help, then shoot me an email after this session. Or if you just want to learn a bit more, then please listen to our new podcast, which is called Influencing Retail. We've got some great guests on there, and season 2 is launching very soon. Thank you so much. I hope you got a lot from that, and I will be around all afternoon to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ian. We have a couple of questions here now, actually. That was a really great session. I really enjoyed it, actually. It was good. And I was listening to the podcast you did with Stuart a few weeks back. That was absolutely brilliant. So thank you for that. So if anyone wants to go and listen to that, feel free to, the Social Day podcast. So I think it's in the podcast, Spotify, all of the different places that you can find those kind of things. So let me ask you a couple of questions before we go over to Kim's session. So Ian, Nikki Carwood has a question for you. She says, do you find that sometimes the negativity around using influencers can be positive? For example, so many people complained recently about the government using influencers for track and trace advertising. Ultimately, the negative chatter about this move served to share the word about track and trace further and very effectively.
I think that sometimes it's really disappointing to see when influencers get a bad rep, because there's no doubt occasionally influencers aren't portraying exactly what we would like them to, but so many times they are sharing messages that reach a different demographic within the country. And if I think of my 10-year-old daughter, she watches various different things on YouTube, and they are kids of her age talking about life, things that are relevant to them in their life. So I think that influencers are powerful, and it frustrates me sometimes when they get a bad rep, because actually they are very often sharing their message to their audience in a way that only they can.
Thank you for that. Ian, I hope that answers your question. So we've got a couple more. We've got so many questions, Ian, but we have to go to the next session in a minute. So I'm just going to choose another one here, and this one is from. Marianne's got a good question. She wants some inside information. She says, Ian, do you deal directly with Tiana on generating ideas, or does she have an agent that she works with now?
She does have an agent. However, we work directly with Tiana. So I have a really good relationship with her family and Tiana herself. And one of the things that, again, as a parent, I've always been really keen to ensure is that Tiana is always involved creatively with the content, but also with the product as well, because ultimately this is her brand. So we have a great relationship. Speak to her dad pretty much every day, every other day. He shares ideas with me, I share ideas with him, and it's a great working relationship. And it's something that I love about this space, because when I was at Disney, we had a long chain of commands, whereas here I'm constantly talking to the family, and it's moving so quickly.
Oh, there you go. So now you know. And Andy's got a question. I just want to do this one more question, because I think it's quite interesting. Andy says, do you think Facebook e-commerce will take off and become popular? They come up with lots of ideas that flop and are quietly removed after a short time. Do you think Facebook commerce, well, I think they've just launched shops and like Instagram shops and that kind of thing, haven't they? So I think it's pretty big, but maybe
Yeah, so in answer to the question, I think absolutely it's going to be big. Of course, these companies come up with lots of ideas. Some of them work and some of them don't. I think that commerce is so fundamental to the way the world is moving at the moment, particularly with COVID. Facebook have a huge audience base, and the way they've integrated shops now with the direct payment makes it so seamless to buy stuff. If we look at Amazon, there's loads of things that Amazon have done in the past, like their phone and their operating system that have failed. These big companies, they fail fast, but I think that with Facebook, shops will work.
Okay, there you go. That's I think they're seeing huge trends at the moment on Instagram shops and that kind of thing, aren't they? So I think Facebook,
Yeah.
it's definitely gonna kick off anyway. So Ian, I can't ask you any more questions. We don't have enough time. We're cutting into the next session, but you have so many. So please go in the app and reply to everybody if you can. And please keep asking Ian your questions because they're really good. And just a little bit of feedback for you. Everybody's saying, great session, Ian. Thank you. Learned so much. Really interesting. So thank you again so much. Ian, let us know where we can find you or connect with you after this session.
So I'm on LinkedIn, Ian Shepherd, and you can email me at ian@thesocialstore.co.uk.
There you go. Thank you very much, Ian. Give Ian a huge round of applause virtually. Thank you so much for joining us.